I think at the core of what I do professionally,
Yeah.
I see people. But first I have to remind them that they're worthy of taking up the space to share the words in the first place because they are a human being who has a voice. I'm just there to help them be reminded that they have every right to use it. And what's it costing them if they're not?
Welcome to Girls Make Bank, the podcast show for women who want to learn the art of selling for business and for life. I'm Jack White, seasoned sales professional, entrepreneur, and owner of Honeybees Group. Come back each week to hear inspiring stories from some of our favorite business owners. Learn how to take the ache out of selling and make bank. We're all in this together, so let's get started. Today on Girls Make Bank, we are talking about showing up. My guest is media and executive presence coach Jessica Abo, and she is here to tell you how to level up how you look, how you sound, and how you connect, whether that's on Zoom, on stage, or in real life. And we dig into three big ideas. One, why executive presence isn't just a title, it's actually how you show up every day. Number two, how curiosity and slowing down can turn small talk into real connection and why that's important both in business and in life. And number three, what it means to take up space on purpose, whether that's from camera angles to boundaries to the way we care for our voice and our health. So if you have ever felt like a floating head on a screen, if you've ever rambled through a pitch, if you've ever said yes to tons of meetings that you don't need, this is an episode for you. Stick around. You are going to want to hear what Jessica shares. Hi, and welcome back to Girls Make Bank. I am so excited to welcome Jessica Abo to Girls Make Bank. Hi, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be with you.
We are in for a wonderful conversation. I want to start by actually going backwards and having you tell us a little bit about your career journey and what has brought you to what you're doing now.
Well, I say that when most people were putting posters of Kirk Cameron and Michael J. Fox on their walls, and most of my guy friends were putting Michael Jordan posters on their walls, I had pictures of Phil Donahue on mine, the talk show host, because that's who I was captivated by the most. And I think it started from a place of him showing me and the rest of the world that stories matter and the people who hold those stories matter. And that was really exciting to me. So I started down this path of wanting to be a news anchor, news reporter / talk show host, really because I wanted to be Phil Donahue.
Oh, that is so fun. And I remember Phil if I was sick from school, right, you would stay home and get to watch TV all day. And so that was great. The Sally, Jesse Raphael, Phil Donahue era. So fun. I check that box. And so talk to me about how that Phil Donahue poster on the wall manifested into your early career.
So in school, I would turn every book report or project into a talk show, and I'd walk around with a fake microphone. So for most kids who were in my classes, no one is surprised that this is the journey that I pursued. But I really had my heart set on going to Northwestern, but no one from my high school had gotten in this 5-year streak. So I went on a tour of the school, and when the admissions counselor went around and asked everybody, what do you want to be when you grow up, sort of thing. And I said I wanted to be a talk show host. He basically rolled his eyes in my face. And I went home and called him every week, but during his lunch break, so I didn't come across too creepy, and would basically give him life updates until the application came in the mail or the acceptance letter came in the mail, I should say. And when I called him to say, I will not waste a day at this school, I really didn't. And I worked myself to the bone with internships that started at 4 a.m, volunteering at the student TV station. I mean, I did all of the things and really just went on that path from there to graduate school, also in broadcast journalism, and then got my start at a local affiliate of CNN Headline News in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And that took me to a CBS affiliate in Burlington, Vermont, and then New York One, where I worked as a news anchor and news reporter for 10 years.
I love that. And so tell us a little bit about how you've taken that TV broadcast experience and turned it into what you're doing now.
Well, when I met my now husband, he was already living in California and I was based in New York. And I joke I lost the coin toss when we met, but I always knew I would end up in California given his work. And I didn't want to start over again in this market, and I needed to figure out how to stay relevant. And I'd already started my production company toward the end of my years at New York One. And I decided to focus on that full time when I got out to LA. And also around that time, I'd signed a book deal. So between
Mm.
the first year that we were married, I had a bi-coastal move, a book that was coming out, and a baby due the same day as the book. So year one here was a little bit busy, but I had a whole plan in place. I was giving keynotes all over the country. I had keynotes booked from here to Japan. And when COVID hit, it all went away in
Mm.
a matter of 48 hours. And I had to figure out, like, how am I going to stay relevant with the world upside down? And I started to quickly see this open market for media training, communication coaching, executive presence coaching, because everything was moving online. And I never ever thought I would be doing what I'm doing now, but those online courses and boot camps and one-on-one coaching became the foundation for what I'm doing with corporations and with entrepreneurs.
And when you say moved across the country, got married, launched a book, had a baby due, it's like all those major stress factors in life that they say, whatever the number is, it's like check, 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 check. And so being able to hold it all together while starting a business, while having to basically, I mean, at the beginning of COVID, so many plans, right, just evaporated and having to quickly pivot. I think it's a story that so many people resonate with because that was so many people, were on a trajectory. COVID happened, and then you have to quickly recalibrate and say, okay, now what? And so I want to talk about what your business has been over the last few years since then, because I am curious. Now you really teach a lot about executive presence. And I want to know, like, what does that even mean?
So when I think of executive presence, I think of how you are showing up in the world, and that is with your words and with your appearance. So in the work I do with people now, they might be the smartest person at the company, but if they come to me and this is how they look on their screen, that
Right.
isn't necessarily matching with their level of expertise and what they're capable of. So often people know what they want to say, but they don't know how to say it, or they know what they want to say, but when someone logs on to their screen, they're sitting in an office with such bad lighting that it looks like they're coming to the meeting from inside of a cave. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to, I think, put your best foot forward in life if people can barely see you or that make out your face, or if when you're speaking, you're saying and every 2 seconds, and people have to fight so hard to find the meat and potatoes of what it is you're trying to convey. And also under those buckets, I would say, is rambling or lacking clarity. And all of these things erode at our confidence, but they also eat away at the confidence people have in us and our abilities. So being able to put all of those foundations together and in the right order, I think help people stand on this platform of
Hmm.
confidence and strength where they can handle a gotcha question that comes their way, or they can have a hard conversation that they've been dreading with a boss, or they can go out in the dating world post divorce and go out on their first date and feel like they're coming into the world the best version of themselves instead of walking around thinking, oh my gosh, fingers crossed, I hope nobody asks me this.
Yeah. And when you think, or at least when I think about quote unquote executive presence, I often think of executives on a stage giving a keynote to, rank and file employees in front of them. And really, it's how you show up anytime, all the time in your business. And so everyone needs to be very aware of their executive presence and work to improve it. And so in this new more virtual business world. We're obviously in person again, but so much of us are still doing business online via Zoom, meeting with clients. Do you think executive presence is more important now because of that? Less important? About the same, but you just need to be aware of different things?
I think executive presence is one of the most important things that we need to be thinking about,
Mhm.
especially because people's to-do lists are so long and their attention spans are shorter because of said to-do lists. We are focusing now on so many high pressure things in our lives that if I'm going to sit across from you for even a 10-minute conversation, if you're all over the place or if your background is so distracting that I can't get past the dirty dishes behind you or the really poor lighting, we're not going to maximize those 10 minutes together because there are going to be so many barriers. So, my thing is, why not put as much to the side as you possibly can in terms of executive presence and just nail down those things so that you can come into every conversation with confidence, whether it's
Yeah.
meeting with child's teacher, whether it's meeting with a coach that you have that you've employed to help you. I think the way that we show up in the world and what we absorb, I think also go hand in hand because if I'm meeting with someone and this happened the other day, someone came to me and their head was floating on the bottom of the screen. And I said, before we get started, I would love if you could just readjust your laptop. And I showed them how. And when they even saw the difference between what they looked like as just a floating head versus taking up the screen, and I reminded them in all the work we do, when we craft your talking points, while important, you also need to remember you've earned the right to take up space. So if you're showing up that way for me on a screen, my next question is, how are you showing up in a meeting? How are you showing up in your life? What do you see yourself as? If you think of yourself as so little that you're not deserving of showing your neck,
Yeah.
what's really going on inside? And I think when people start to unpack those things, they realize, wow, like I actually have been silent in meetings. I haven't been raising my hand. I knew the answer to that problem and I didn't say anything in class. And people start to realize it's not just these one-off meetings. They're playing small in many areas of their life. And sometimes they only learn that when someone like me is like, hey, can you just fix your screen a little bit? Because I want you to see and feel what it looks like for you to take up more room.
Wow, I just want to pause because what you said is so powerful there that something so small is how you adjust your camera on Zoom is indicative. And it is one of those things. I love how you said sometimes it's just a matter of what you're doing is making people aware of how their actions not only make me view them as the person that is like watching them, but it's a reflection of how they feel inside because that's really important to note because so many of the women that I work with and that listen to this podcast are often working from their homes by themselves. They're solopreneurs, most of them, or have very small part time teams. And the idea, and it's hard, it's emotionally hard. Sometimes you know, not in the best frame of mind or we're trying to work through something. And how you show up, even in those moments, is really important. And I think what you just said is a really great reminder for us to always remember that how you show up in a big way and in a little way really reflects on what people are thinking, what they're seeing, and our ability to be respected and taken seriously as businesswomen. And that's important.
And also, I think treating your environment the way you treat whatever makes you feel good is important. So for me, I know that when I am in jeans and a sweater and I've done my hair and makeup, I know for myself that
Yeah.
I feel like me today. And I have plenty of meetings with my team where I'm in workout clothes because I am making a commitment to myself because I've been really bad at this for the last 2 years and I'm making a promise to myself to do things differently. I know that there are days I also come to my team with my hair in a ponytail, no makeup, and a workout outfit, and we're still productive. It's not you have to look a certain way in order to be a certain level of success, as much as it is how how you know you are presenting yourself to the world and asking yourself, am I the most me today?
Right.
Am I coming to the world the most me that I can in this moment? So I don't wear things that make me not feel that way. Like as a reporter, I didn't wear short skirts because I feel more comfortable in a pantsuit.
Mhm.
So I dress a certain way because that's one level of my confidence. And I have a background that I think is colorful because I like to add color to the world and have it be a bright and happy place. And I feel a little out of sorts when, for whatever reason, I can't be in my office and I take a call in a car. Like it doesn't feel 100% the same to me as it does when I'm here. So your office might not matter to you. You might take all your calls in the car and you might have an 8-figure business, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that if there are other areas of your life where you aren't necessarily showing up the version of you want to be, then my question is why? And
Mhm.
once you look at that, what can you do to show up as that version of yourself so that you're not closing any doors without letting the world do it for you?
Yeah.
Because I so often, and especially as women, we do let so much fill up our plates that sometimes we don't ask ourselves, did I even want to say yes to that? Do I feel good about being at that event? Do I want to be there? Did I say yes out of obligation? Like, what do I need to be doing for me? And for me this year, I showed up for a lot of people in a lot of ways. And the one area I did not show up for myself at all was with my health. And it took getting a diagnosis of adrenal fatigue, then a sinus infection, then COVID, which I had never had before, like back to back to back, to wake me up and say, you're lucky it was just this.
Mhm.
Like, girl, get it together and start
Yeah.
prioritizing your health because without that, you can't do any of these other things.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying, one, that's a great wake up call to have to like nothing resets priorities like those kinds of wake up calls. But also, what I hear you saying is being intentional about how you show up. So it's not whether you like to wear makeup or not. It's not whether you prefer skirts or pantsuits. It's about being intentional that how you show up is true to yourself and it's how you want to be perceived. And I think that's a great takeaway. Can we talk for a second about building rapport and making connections in the right way and quickly? And so, talk to me about like, what are some of your strategies that you use for building connections with people that are new, whether it's in-person networking or in a group setting at, like a cocktail party, whether it's a Zoom meeting? How do you kind of make a connection with people rather quickly and have it have impact?
Oh, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. So, and I would love your thoughts on this too, because maybe you actually have
Mhm.
or an answer to this. For me, coming at this from the perspective of I've been a curious person my whole life and learned by watching Donahue how to ask questions. And then for 22 years as a news anchor, a news reporter, my job was based on asking questions. For me, the easiest way to build rapport with someone is to ask questions. And I am amazed at how I could be in an environment with someone, whether it's a birthday party for a child and I'm standing next to another parent, or I'm at dinner with my husband with another couple, or I am just at a networking event and no one asks questions. It's so strange to me. And I don't know if we're just living in a culture where people don't care, so they don't ask a question. But I'm not talking about like, what's your deepest, darkest secret? I'm talking about if I saw you last week at soccer and we were having this huge conversation, in my thinking, when I see you next time, I'm going to say, how did that go? Like,
Yeah.
tell me what happened. And in that environment, I've seen time and time again, people will share, 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 and never at the end say, and what about that thing you were working on? Or
Yeah.
how is your trip? And I come home and I say to my husband, like, it's just so interesting to me that you could be with someone for 2 hours and they don't ask a single question. So, number
Mhm.
one, if you are someone who is trying to build rapport with another human, a great way to do that is to ask a question. And it
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be, how are you? Which can sometimes lead to a flat, fine, okay, good, I guess, whatever it might be. I have a different answer for that. But I think the first thing is asking someone a question, what's exciting in your world these days, something along those lines. And then the next time you see them, if you can like voice note yourself or text yourself, so the next time you see that person, you can say, oh yeah, their name was whatever, and their kid is, Charlie, and Charlie, had a basketball tournament. You can say like, oh, how was the basketball tournament? How did Charlie feel about it? And then if you are with someone who you actually know and you're passing quickly or you're reconnecting and you go, hey, how are you? And they're like, fine, how are you? You can go, no, really, like, how are you? Like, what's the latest? Slow the conversation down just a notch. And most people in that moment will be like, oh, well, I'm having a bit of a week because my car broke down and blah, blah, blah. And that's the way to build rapport there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend going to a networking for the first time. And you're like, I'm Jessica. And I'm like, how are you? You're like, I'm good. How are you? And I'm like, no, really, Jack, how are you? Because then you might be like,
whoa.
What's wrong?
I love that. The two things. So being curious, genuinely curious also, I would say, not just asking questions for the sake of asking questions, but because what we do around here is teach people how to sell. And one of the things that I always say is to be a great seller is you have to be curious. You have to genuinely want to know what is going on in someone else's life, in their business, so that you can help find a solution. And I think being curious in general is a great trait to have, because you're right. It is what allows you to get to know someone and to build rapport really quickly. And then the second thing you said, which is my brain fog. I'm a part of the we do not care club, so my brain fog.
Oh no, I love that club. I'm in it too. It was slowing it down and
slowing it down.
How are you?
Slowing it down. Oh my gosh. So many times, especially so our son transferred schools this year. So we were the only family in his grade that is new to the school. So we're meeting a lot of people for the very first time. And so one, we're trying to get curious and like get to know everybody and sort of find your tribe. But the other thing is slowing it down, because when you're in these moments, when you're meeting new people, especially, it can kind of create some nervous energy. And when you're nervous, you tend to speed things up. It's like the natural way you deal with it. And so I love like just in the back of your mind, keeping a mental note to like slow it down. Take it easy. Take a breath. Maybe count to 3 before, you move on to the next thing. I think that's a really great tip and something, yes, when you're building rapport, but in so many, like we all tend to rush through life. So slow it down. I love that.
And it pops up in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
When my then 5-year-old and I were outside playing pretend hair salon because she was sick and we kept her home from camp. And she cut my hair for real the night before a keynote because they're pretend hair salon, but pretend hair salon for her meant we were in a real salon, Jack, silly Jack. But we were
but this was a real haircut.
I thought like all of it was pretend hair salon, including, no scissors involved. And I didn't just pummel her and go straight for, why would you do that? Oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. And like make her feel like the worst human being in the world. Like I took a beat.
Yeah.
And I said, did you just cut my hair? And she said, yes. And I said, what were you thinking when you cut my hair? And without missing a beat, she said, I was thinking your hair would look much better 1 inch shorter. And that gave us an opportunity to talk about the fact that scissors are for paper and we only cut hair if it's our full-time job. And I think in life, we pummel people so quickly because we don't take that beat. We lead with it when we lead with curiosity without judgment, when we lead with curiosity in all of the ways and all of the things, it gives us a conversation to have next.
Yeah.
Instead of shame, blame, fear, rejection, all of these things that are much harder to repair than taking the 3 seconds and giving yourself that grace to regulate and hopefully regulate the people around you.
Yeah. Always a good lesson with parenting, because I think we naturally react quickly, and pulling it back gives your daughter and you an opportunity, and my son and I an opportunity to sort of take a beat, and also for him to come to his own conclusions, because sometimes by me not reacting, he can come and say, "Oh, mom, I didn't mean to do that." And I was like, "Yeah, that's right. Okay. You didn't mean to do it. Got it. That's
100%.
Let's move forward then. We don't need to, this doesn't need to be a thing. You did something, you didn't mean to do it. Your daughter meant to do it. She thought you needed a 1 inch shorter. So
She wasn't wrong. She wasn't wrong. And
mommy needed a little trim."
I mean, the things, but in life, the way that looks like for me in leadership is I want to have the kind of team that if they make a mistake, they know that they can run to
Right.
me with that mistake and not run from me.
Yeah.
They are only going to feel that way if that's how I model my leadership style for them.
Yep.
That's only going to be the case. I hope to God my girls, when it's a lot bigger of a problem than cutting an inch off of a ponytail, still feel like they have a safe space to come to my husband and come to me and tell us what's going on, because that's the foundation for trust and connection. And at the end of the day, going back to Donahue, I loved this guy because he saw people. And I think at the core of what I do professionally,
Yeah.
it's I see people. And it's, yeah, of course, we land on words that they can say out loud. But first, I have to remind them that they're worthy of taking up the space to share the words in the first place, because they are a human being who has a voice. And I'm not there to teach them, that they have a voice. They know they have a voice. I'm just there to help them be reminded that they have every right to use it. And what's it costing them if they're not? And so much of that is more about visibility, but people seeing themselves, like looking in the mirror and actually seeing themselves.
Yeah.
Because once people see themselves, it's a lot easier to see the people around them.
That's right. And we have to remember, whether it's meeting new people and trying to build rapport, how we raise our children, how we deal with our partners and our spouses, how we interact with our employees. What you're talking about is people, right? And so when you think about building connection, being a leader, showing up, how you show up, right? Is you're interacting with people, and you have to think, like, number one, how would I want someone to treat me?
Sure.
If I made a mistake, how do I want to be treated that way, right? How do I want people to react? What kind of conversations do I want people to start with me, right? Do I want to just be bulldozed over with questions, or do I want to, let's have a real conversation, and I can tell when somebody's genuinely interested? And I think when you are intentional, when you're curious, when you show up as an authentic, real person in any of those scenarios, people can tell. And that is one of the best things you can do, is show up genuine, interested, intentionally. And that's how you build relationships, build trust, become the leader that people want to follow.
100%. And even
Yeah.
if people don't walk around with a name tag that says, "Hello, my name is Jessica. I want to be seen, heard, understood, and valued."
Yeah.
Fundamentally, that is the case for everyone. And that was true when I was standing on the porch of someone who had just lost a family member to violence and had to get a story on the news. It is true today when I am asked to media train a new level or an new entry level employee, or even the CEO who's been in that chair for the last 2 decades. That's just a human want and
Mhm.
desire. And I think it's something that everybody deserves.
Yeah. Now, you do a lot of public speaking, a lot of keynote speaking for corporations, companies, teams, all different levels. How do you prepare yourself mentally and physically before those keynotes and before those talks? And what are a couple things that we can all do before we have a pitch, a meeting, an event, to kind of settle ourselves and get us in the right headspace?
Two things. The first is to prepare for the actual pitch or the opportunity or the day of. I really spend a lot of time getting to know the audience. So I understand what the buyer might be looking for, and
Mhm.
I understand what the audience might be coming to learn that day. So I don't come with cookie cutter content. I try to take the framework that I have and customize it for whatever room I might be in so that it lands. Because
Mhm.
the goal when that I have as a speaker is that when I'm speaking, people feel like I'm speaking directly to them. Like, oh my
Right.
gosh, like, wow, like I really needed to hear that today. I feel like she's talking right to me. And the only way I can get there is by really understanding who's in the room. And then in terms of life on the road and physically being ready, I have lots of different things that I take with me. Like I'm never without Halls or Ludens or, Beekeepers Natural, like all of the health and wellness things. But I actually just met with an ENT to figure out how I can have a training system I do for myself. Like in the same way that I would go to the gym and have an
Mhm.
arm routine, what can I be doing to have a vocal routine? Because I find that between the flight and the hotel and the arena and the hundreds or thousands of people who you're shaking hands with or taking pictures with, all of that can catch up to me pretty quickly. So just trying to do other things, take other supplements and have a vocal routine that helps me keep my voice strong is something I'm actually paying a lot of more attention to these days because it's an instrument. And as a specialist told me recently, we break what we use. So if
Yeah.
you were to go look at a tennis player's racket, like you'll see where they break their strings probably every single time. And when you're someone like me who speaks for a living, either through coaching behind a screen or on a stage, I have to be better at protecting that instrument and supporting it 365 days of the year. So that looks like tea and honey and a lot of hydration, but probably breath work now will be involved. And I'll have, similar to what a singer has to keep
Yeah.
and protect their instrument. I'll have to have something to protect mine.
Yeah. So smart. Really, really smart. If you could go back to the beginning of your career and give yourself a piece of advice that you needed to hear then, what would it be?
I think I would just say slow down. Because when I started my company 13 years ago, it started as a YouTube channel to empower young people to let them know they were not alone. Because I was seeing all this content I was putting out at New York One and how cool it looked, to be at Fashion Week with the celebrity or at a sporting event with that athlete. And I always thought to myself, but it probably wasn't always easy to be those people. And I wish that there was a way that those people could share, like when it wasn't cool to be them.
Mhm.
And the YouTube channel, while I really enjoyed it, I think I spent a lot of money on producing content and on ads that I didn't really even have at the time. But I was so passionate about creating this and getting it out in the world that I think I felt like I was already late to the YouTube game. And I went really quickly. And that need for speed, I would say, sort of followed me the first 10 years of the business. So I think I partnered with marketing agencies before I was ready and social media agencies before I was ready. But I had a very like start before you're ready mindset. But I wonder if I would have slowed down just a bit more and really looked at my finances, maybe I would have made different decisions that would have not put me in debt the way that it
Mhm.
did at the stages of the business that it did. So I would say probably slow down. But given that I can't go back in time, I look back at those 10 years and I think about all of the connections that I made and all of the things that I learned and all of the mistakes that I made and the experience I feel like I now have. And it makes me so much more, I think, relatable to my clients when they're having a struggle because I'm not sitting from this platform of, oh, it's always been easy for me. And like, look
Right.
at what I built overnight. I understand the struggle. Like I understand, coming home to having the different color mail in your mailbox because like the debt
Bills
collector,
were due.
like
Yeah.
they're like
That's your
we're
third
one
notice.
letter away from someone being at your door, and it's not a good feeling. So I would say maybe slow down and and focus maybe a little bit more because when you have things, that you're trying to go after in so many different verticals, it can feel like you have diluted results. But at the same time, I would say you have to bet on yourself and know that you're going to make mistakes in the process and all of those will be stepping stones for your
Yeah.
future self.
Yeah. And it's so Hindsight is always such an interesting thing because at the time you're like, especially when you're young and you're hungry and you're just like, go, 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 do whatever you have to do. There is a chance to slow down. I also think that is the time to like, you know, do all those things. But yeah, I love that. And they always say, I do think it makes you relatable having gone through that struggle and that journey because what do they say? Every overnight success is 10 years in the making, right? Or whatever it is. There is no overnight success. It's a journey and it's a struggle. And it does make you appreciate where you are now and seeing the success that you've built, realize that it was all of that hard work and it was all of that, the pink and the blue and the green envelopes that come in the mail that
100%.
get you here. And it's just such a great perspective to have. So I love that.
I've learned, like, when the dragon is breathing down my neck, I am very creative and
Same.
resilient and resourceful. So I think that learning that life doesn't always have to be that way
Yeah.
has also been something I've had to kind of learn to unlearn.
Reprogram yourself around it. Yeah.
Exactly. And having motivation come from within. So like the gym
Yeah.
is a perfect example. I'm someone who, unless someone is shouting, this is what to do next, I don't know what to do next. And
Yeah.
I wake up in a good mood. So I'm not like, if I don't work out, I'm in a bad mood because my whole body feels out of whack. Like I wake up and I'm happy. And if I'm not working, that's when I feel like, okay, something does not feel like it's calibrated right now. But the second I get back into my zone, I'm like, okay, everything is right with the world. But the one thing I wish I could redo from all of it is just prioritizing my health in a different way.
Yeah.
Moving every single day, lifting weights, even if I kept them underneath my chair, which I probably should. Just understanding that I only have one of these. That's it.
Mhm.
Literally all I have. And my passion for what I do is so powerful that it drives me to be up early, go to bed late, to be all the things. And that's all well and good, but you can't do any of it if
Yeah.
you're sick in bed. You can't do any of it with laryngitis. You
Yeah.
can't do any of it if you just feel like you are crumbling inside and no one is seeing the real you. So it's funny because the advice I would give myself back then is the same advice I'm actually giving myself now, which is just slow down, girl. Like,
Yeah.
clear your schedule, have less meetings. My team now, we are getting together to have a very tough process on who am I going to meet with during the week and why am I meeting them, instead of saying yes to every meeting that pops up for here, this, that, or no, no more.
Mhm.
And it's not a fun lesson to learn, but when I think about the kind of body that I want to have and the kind of strength I want my bones to have and the longevity that I want to have and how I want to feel as I get older. I have 2 little kids. This has to be what everything else is built on and not the other way around.
Everything you're saying, I'm like, yes, 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 that's me. I think we're built similar in that way. I have a business coach who calls me a business adrenaline junkie because I work best when everything is chaotic and I'm on the deadline. That's when I am on fire the most. And in terms of the health and wellness, the same. And I think there's a certain age and experience that you have to get to before you realize how fragile this machine is. And so I feel like we need to be talking more to younger people of like, hey, you need to take care of your body now. Because when you're like 20 years ago, my body felt indestructible. And now I'm still fit and healthy and, we take care of ourselves, but you're not doing it the same way I did at 25. And so I think that is so important.
The
Go
only thing
ahead.
I was going to add to that is I saw something on Instagram about people who are like the way we are, thriving in chaos and deadlines and just when, high stakes, high pressure moments. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was something connected to childhood.
Oh,
And I was like, oh yeah, that's
trauma,
definitely
child trauma.
yeah.
I saw the same reel.
But I'm a recovering people pleaser, and like it just I think that's the other thing too. When I work with people, I can spot another people
Yeah.
pleaser
Yeah.
for,
A
very,
mile
very,
away. Yeah.
and I think that's why, like, when people say, how do you do the work you do, or how are you different, whatever, I'm just like, oh, I'm a recovering people pleaser. So once I meet a fellow recovering, or
Yeah.
still, a person who would consider themselves a people pleaser, you just see how to handle people and problems from that lens.
Yeah.
And once you realize that you actually have a right to say what you want to say, and there are just a certain, a set of tools that you can have to help you say it, it all becomes so much easier. And then people like me are like, why didn't I do this so much earlier in life? So I think that's actually what's driving me with the younger generations, is to like help people have that kind of poise and confidence earlier.
Earlier.
So they don't
Yeah.
have to feel that icky feeling of, I'm not myself in this moment. I don't feel like myself. I'm not saying what I really want to be saying. And then having like all of those unsaid things just sort of live inside instead
Yeah.
of be expressed. So, oh yeah.
It's
Oh
such
yeah.
great work. It's such powerful, important, great work. And so what do you want your legacy of your work to be? What do you want to create? What's the lasting effect?
I think it's, if people are standing around after I'm gone, it would be something to the effect of, she really saw me and she helped me see myself. And as a result of that, I spot the core essence of other
Yeah.
people around me, and I help them see their, themselves, and I help them see like their potential and their power. And it would be that, it would be like that domino effect of, oh my God, she got me and she gave me like the permission I never needed, because that's not how this works, but I thought I needed at the time to really be myself. And as a result, I got to help other people be who they wanted to be, and that just rippled on and on and on and on and on.
I love that. Mic drop on that. I love that. And so if people want to connect with you, if they want to learn more, sign up for one of your programs, engage you in some way, what is the best way for them to find you?
The best way is just to email me at hello@jessicaabo.com. And Abo is ABO, like all three blood types. So JESSICAABO.com. And I have two websites. Jet Productions is JETT-productions.com. And that is the corporate coaching, healthcare coaching that I do on that side of my business. And then JessicaAbo.com is more of the speaking that I do, and for people who need one-off media training because they either an entrepreneur and they have a book coming out, or something
Mhm.
that's smaller than a corporate setting, they can be living in my world through that website.
Great. And we are going to link all of that in the show notes. And you actually have an upcoming program coming up for health professionals, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that as we wrap up?
It's called From the ER to PR, and it's a 6-week boot camp that I teach live every week except for one. That one week we all have a private one-on-one set aside, for each person to have with me. And it's to help people who are connected to health and wellness in some way. So you do not need to be a doctor or a nurse or a researcher or scientist to participate. You could be someone who's a nutritionist, or you're a divorce coach. And because that touches on mental health, that's completely appropriate for this
Mhm.
curriculum. But basically, it's to help people level up their communication skills, level up their executive presence, but also understand how the media works, how visibility can look for them if getting on TV or a podcast is not what they're going after, still understanding what else exists for them to understand and put to use to get a promotion, or to launch a brand, or to do other things in their community. Maybe they want to give a TEDx or write a book or something. So it's really understanding all the different ways that you could be getting more visibility, and then the tools to help you get there, from what you say and how you say it, and then helping people understand what it would take for them to go and get that opportunity that they're going after. So we have a journalist come in one of those weeks, and that person will do mock interviews, so everyone can practice like the journey that they're on out loud with someone else who isn't me, because by then everyone's so comfortable with me that I'm just this friendly face, and I
Yeah.
want people to still get butterflies before having
Mhm.
talk to someone about what they do and what they're passionate about and what they know. So that's the day that everyone, sweats through their shirt and practically vomits before we have the class. But it's everyone's favorite because they realize, oh my gosh, I can do this. I'm
Mhm.
still here. And why didn't I do this sooner? And I think once people see what they're capable of, they don't put themselves back in the box.
Yeah, it's so true. I always say that the confidence comes from doing the hard things. People say like, "Oh, you're just mindset and whatever." It's like, "No, you do the thing and then you build the confidence around it."
Mhm.
So, Jessica, this has been so fun. I think that we got to touch on some real valuable points that I think people will take away. And I so appreciate you coming and spending some time talking to me and showing up for our Girls Make Bank audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for all your thoughtful questions. You know how much they mean to me. And for the work that you're putting out in the world to help people feel less alone and to be inspired and empowered and to learn some new tools and tricks and tips from someone who they might not have heard of before or have met yet. So what you're doing for women and for entrepreneurs is so incredible. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Make Bank. If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe, like, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Please review and share our show to help spread the word and help your girls make bank. And I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, or visit honeybeesgroup.co. Until next time, friends.